We have 26 new cases who have tested positive for COVID-19 in BC today, bringing our total to 2,171 people. This includes 832 people in the Vancouver Coastal Health Region, 992 in the Fraser Health Region, 123 in the Vancouver Island Health Authority, 175 in the Interior Health Region, and 49 people in the Northern Health Region. We continue to have 24 active outbreaks in long-term care and assisted living, including 21 long-term care assisted living facilities and 3 outbreaks that are ongoing in acute care units. That includes 416 cases now associated with long-term care, assisted living, and acute care facilities, 261 residents and 155 staff who have been affected. 12 of the outbreaks in long-term care have been declared over. We do have one new community outbreak, one that we have been talking about for the last few days, with the Fraser Valley Specialty Poultry. The investigation that Fraser Health has been ongoing in that business has identified 3 cases, and there's an ongoing investigation at this time. We continue to have 50 people associated with the Superior Poultry outbreak and 42 associated with the United Poultry outbreak. In addition, we have 120 people now associated with the Federal Correctional Facility in Mission. One of the more challenging issues that we've had recently is an increase in numbers of cases here associated with the Curl Lake plant in Alberta, and it's a very challenging outbreak. We know there's a lot of there's a large number of people who work in that project in Alberta, and we know there are continuing to be cases identified in Alberta and here in British Columbia, and I have spoken before about it here in BC. We are requiring people who have come back from working in that facility to self-isolate whilst they're in BC. And we know people, this is essential work, and people are going back and forth for work. But as cases continue to be found both in Alberta and here in BC, this is very important for us, vitally important for us in British Columbia, that anybody who has been at the site since March 24th needs to follow our requirements in British Columbia when they are home. And this includes your entire family being very diligent about physical distancing, self-isolating on your return. We have our, and part of our response here in British Columbia to outbreaks in our communities is treating that entire area as an outbreak site, even though people may not recognize that they have contact. We know that sometimes it's very challenging in these types of settings to know who has been a contact with whom. And we have now seen transmission in families when people have come back from working and not realizing they're ill or having quite mild symptoms, and then this can cause an ongoing effect in our communities here, including people who are healthcare workers who have then become ill with COVID-19. So monitoring yourself and your family closely for symptoms here in BC is very important, and if anybody becomes ill, they need to contact your healthcare provider, 811, and make sure that we can assess you for symptoms and whether you need to be tested. The risks in BC are very high. This is part of our response to our pandemic here, making sure that we have a very low threshold for keeping people apart who are sick, any sort of symptoms at all, and we know we have to be extremely cautious when we're connected to any outbreak. And this is the same that we are doing with every other outbreak in our community here. This is the only way we can protect our loved ones. And as we have said many times, this disease is spread within families and within communities. And so this is what we are requiring you to do, recognizing that you have no control over whether you have been exposed or not. But we need you to take these measures to protect your families and your communities here in British Columbia. It is far too easy to tip the scales against us and undo the hard work and sacrifice that everybody here in BC has made. We cannot afford to have any missteps as we look to ease our restrictions in the coming days and weeks. Going back to our cases, we do have 72 people who are hospitalized right now, and at the moment I don't have the number of people who are in ICU, but that will be in our statement later today. Unfortunately, we have an additional 2 deaths to report today, bringing the total number of people in British Columbia who have died to 114. And that includes 1 person in Fraser Health and 1 in Vancouver Coastal over the last 24 hours. And, our thoughts and prayers, of course, go to the families and the loved ones and the care providers for these people. We recognize how difficult a time it is, particularly when we can't have the ceremonies that are so important to us in the same way right now. 1,376 people have recovered fully from COVID-19 here in BC now. So I'd like to take a bit of time today to speak to our youth here in British Columbia. I know many of us are feeling the fatigue and the frustration of maintaining safe physical distance, of not seeing our friends, of having to connect with people in a virtual way. And it's especially challenging for young people where their main connections are often related to friends in school. And we know that the in-classroom schooling has been suspended, and that can make people feel really overwhelmed and anxious. And we know families are doing their best, and it can be very challenging to have your family around you all the time. But we know, I want you to know that you're not alone. We understand that this can be very anxiety-provoking. We understand that there's a lot of things we don't know, and we're working through it together. If you need help, there is people who are here to help. And you can contact the Kids Helpline. That's a really important service that's available for kids, but also for parents who are struggling or have challenges or just need somebody to talk to help them through this. And that's 1-800-680-4264. Don't be afraid to use that. It's an important place where you can get some support. We also encourage you, and I encourage you all, to stay healthy, getting outside. Find some time in your day to get outside and to let off a little bit of that steam by staying active, washing your hands regularly, making sure that we are doing the things that we know can help, and asking your parents and teachers for help if you need it. We want children here across the province to continue learning, but there's many different ways of learning, and your teachers are here to help you with that. But you can also use those online platforms to stay connected with your schoolmates and your friends, and your schools, our superintendents, our school districts, our teachers, our education assistants are all doing an amazing job to keep you connected. I do want to say a special note to the graduation class of 2020. It can be so challenging, and I know for the young people in my life, I hear this as well. The traditional ceremonies and celebrations that we would expect to have when we make this major transition from high school into the rest of our lives are on hold right now, and we won't be doing them in the same way this summer. But take heart, we are thinking about that, and teachers, administrators, and parents are still working to make this an incredibly memorable experience for all of you. And I think, you need to think about this in that you are and will always be unique in the graduating class. It's been over 100 years since we've had an event like this pandemic. Few of us have ever known or will ever experience graduating during the circumstances of a global pandemic, and looking at how we can make that a special and memorable and positive experience in your life. We congratulate all of you on your efforts so far. This has been a long road, and we're not out of it yet. I know that all the parents out there are doing their best to support your kids and provide those ongoing learning activities, whether they're the formal activities you get from school or those experiential learning activities that we get to have every day, from things like cooking or planting a garden or reading a book. When you are working from home and not used to homeschooling, I can understand that this is tough and exhausting. And, do what you can. I understand this isn't easy, and our school system understands this isn't easy, and there is no such thing as perfect. It is an unattainable concept, and none of us should be striving for it. We are all in this together, and we know that there's over 1 billion children around the world that are not in school right now. But that doesn't mean we don't have opportunities to learn. We will make sure your children, who are our future, are given the necessary tools and support to catch up from this. And we will get through this, and we will catch up. And we will give the support to those who need it most as well. School is different right now, but learning, whether it's in the classroom, at home, or outside, doesn't stop. Everybody's circumstances and experience of this pandemic are different and unique, and you need to do what works for you, and that's okay. We'll get through this. Education is a team effort, and we are all committed to making sure we can support our children in the best way possible in the coming weeks and months. I want to recognize as well that this is Childcare Month, and this is important to recognize our early childhood care educators, the childcare professions, our teachers, our teaching assistants, and everybody who is supporting children in the many different ways that we can during this pandemic. This is not forever, and I've said that many times. It is for now, and it's going to be for the coming weeks and months. And we need to continue to do our best to get ourselves through this together. But we have to do that with recognizing that we have more in common than we do have differences in this country and in this province. And we need to continue to take care of each other and support each other through this very challenging time. And I call on all of us to continue to be kind to each other, to be calm as we make our way through this, and to stay safe.